here at Ryan Green, his mother Lalita, and his father Vader Green. We're going to talk a little bit about the whole recruiting process as a whole, some stuff that a lot of people on the back end don't really know about when it comes into being a high-profile prospect. Not going to delay the process anymore. We're going to get right into it. Mr. Green, take us back to the whole process from start to finish, where Ryan kind of was an unknown to when he popped to be this big-time prospect.
Well, it started when Ryan was a sophomore. We decided to go on a junior day with the Fowlers, Dante Fowler and his family, to Florida State. We went to the junior day. It was a lovely, great day. Met a lot of people, but didn't get that much love from the coaches, particularly because they didn't know who Ryan was.
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan, excuse me,
Okay.
Ryan didn't too much like it as well. So he felt a little, distant, that they wasn't paying attention to him, that he didn't get any love. So at that point, me and my wife talked about it, and we decided to go ahead and do some research, and as far as getting Ryan into camps and getting him some exposure.
When he started going to these camps, how did that increase the exposure for him?
A lot. Ryan, first camp he went to was underclassman. He went as a sophomore. He went there, performed really well. He won the MVP and the Combine King.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point there, we went over to the ESE camp, I believe, at Armwood High School. And he performed really well there. He went there, I think it was Vernon Hargreaves, Nelson Aguilar was there. And he went there, he ran a 4.340, did good in one-on-ones. And from that point there, what we started doing is we started looking into school camps.
Okay.
So we decided to register him to the Florida State camp. We registered Ryan to the Florida State camp. We went out there. Ryan went with a chip on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
He felt that he was a good football player, and he was, and just wasn't getting publicity as the other kids was getting.
Mm-hmm.
So he participated in the running back drills, and I noticed where the coach was just noticing, started paying more attention to him. So during the break, I went up to the coach and found out how he was doing, and the coach said he's doing really well, that he's listening, and he liked his attitude. And so I handed the coach a highlight tape of Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I had my nephew make some highlight tapes, and I handed him a highlight tape, and me and my wife went to lunch, the kids went to lunch, and we came back from lunch. He came and found us and said that he needed to talk to us before we leave. So as the day went on, Ryan still, he's going hard. I mean, he's having a great camp. So during the evening time, he started playing the 707.
Okay.
Ryan performed really well. One of the kids from the other team picked off a pass. This kid was at least 25 yards in front of Ryan. Ryan went and ran the kid down, and the coaches started to pay attention more.
Mm-hmm.
So he played defense side of the ball, picked off a pass, and probably 15-20 minutes later, Coach Dawson and Coach Jimbo Fisher comes over and extend the offer to Ryan, saying that he's a kid that they wanted to program, and he has big play abilities. And from that point there, we started. It just started happening.
It starts happening. You get your first offer. A lot of kids don't get their first offers as early as you got yours. How does that feel to you when you pop that first offer? It's a big one from Florida State.
Well, Florida State wasn't my first. My first was from Kentucky.
Okay.
But that happened like after the Florida State camp, I believe, and it's just a huge weight off your shoulders because all your hard work is starting to pay off.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive. It's not cheap. It is an investment to help you get to a point where your son is able to write his own ticket to a college of his choice. Talk to us about the expenses that it takes to get to the point where you guys are at now.
Well, each camp there's an expense to pay for the camps. The majority of them, there is a fee, the registration fee. I believe the most expensive one outside of the college camp would have been the football university camp that we registered Ryan for, and that was like over $500, for one shot. And then the underclassmen was not as expensive. I don't think there was a charge for the ESS one over in Armwood. And then, of course, the charge or the expense for the Florida State camp. And not only that, it's other things that come into it. Like, fortunately for us, we had family members that could put together the highlights for us. But if you don't have that type of network or that type of connection, then you have that expense. You have to pay for that to make sure that your child's highlight tape is put together properly.
Okay.
So that's an expense. And then there's an expense for my husband and I, because we can't stay in the dorm when he's at the camp. So we have to have a hotel,
Right.
you know, for those nights that we're there. So it can be very expensive. But on the flip side of that, it's like, okay, well, we're going to pay this money now because our number one goal is to make sure that he gets a scholarship somewhere. It doesn't matter where. That's the ultimate goal, is to make sure that he gets a scholarship. So pay that money now, you know, and it's not as much as a year in tuition.
Correct.
You know, so I looked at it as that, with it being an investment to my child's future and my child's education.
Talk to us about how your phone is blowing up, your Facebook is going crazy. Just tell us some of the back end stuff that we don't see every day as being a top prospect.
Well, it can get overwhelming. At first you like it because you're like, yeah, I'm that dude now, you know. You work hard for it, and then like after a while it's like it gets old because you get messages, phone calls like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Got reporters and writers calling you all throughout the day, and it can get overwhelming, but it's a blessing.
How'd you guys contain that?
Well, what I did, I struck Ryan to all phone calls come through me. I started handling that because I noticed, and when the writers would call, some of them, not all of them, would misquote him on certain things. I mean, he's a kid. Kids gonna say things, they're gonna, you know, it's just like they've been in the candy store. I mean, they got all this media attention. So I think some of the writers usually take advantage and put stuff that shouldn't, you know, that he didn't say. So after I read one blog, I guess I told my wife, I said, well, we got to put a stop to this, because he would be in school, his phone was ringing, texting, and so I told him all phone calls come through me. So every reporter, sports writer, whoever had to come through me to get information on Ryan, and I give the information to him, not Ryan.
Okay. Now, you being on the back end, a father, and I'll make a generalized statement, a father would expect their son to grow up and be a big-time kid. He wants his son to be a big-time prospect. Mother usually wants him, hey, I want to be a stand-up citizen. I want my son to be productive in society, whether sports is involved or not. Was all this a surprise to you at all? Was the attention and things that Ryan was doing? And
Ryan, you're in the midst of, you come down to a top 10 amongst your family, schools that you really like, and coaches are telling you a number of different things. They want Ryan Green to be a part of the program. What kind of pressure does that put on you, saying, no, I don't want to be a part of this program, or yes, I really want to be here, but I don't want to let down this coach that I've developed a relationship with from 13 other different schools? Talk to me about the pressure of committing to a school.
the pressure of not wanting to say no to other schools.
Well, it's a lot of pressure because you like you say, you form relationships through each coach, and you got to find out who's real and who's not. So it was just a lot of pressure, but I think I made the right decision.
Okay.
We've been on several trips. I mean, we've been to Notre Dame a couple of times. We've been to Vanderbilt, Tennessee. And what happens is, Ryan's one of those kids that, you know, he gives everybody the benefit of the doubt. You know, and I explained to him that everybody doesn't have your best interests. And you have to be able to distinguish who's real and who's not. And in doing that, I mean, we do a lot of praying, first of all, because with this decision, you got to make sure you got to use God first. Ask Him for guidance and make sure that this is the right fit for you, this is the right team, the right coach, and everything that goes with it. I mean, because there were some great coaches. I mean, you know, Auburn, Tennessee, Notre Dame, those were great coaches, great people. They treated us like a family, even though we wasn't family there, but they really treated us real nice. And it's just, it's tough, I tell you.
Now, off camera we spoke, and it didn't seem like a big surprise to you that so many kids decommit. And I'll tell you, on camera, it doesn't seem like a big surprise to me either.
No.
And a number of those factors come into play, and the fan base may not like it, and obviously coaches aren't liking it. But one real factor is kids don't necessarily get to see everything that's out there, so they end up decommitting from the school. But talk to me about your perspective on so many kids, or the kids who do decommit, and why they do it.
Well, I think what happens, I think a lot of kids don't get out to visit all the institutions just to make sure. Because first of all, when you decide to school, you have to first make sure, is this a school I want to go to if I don't play football? That's the first thing. Is this a town I want to live in? You know, all that stuff comes into play. And what happens is these kids are committed on emotion. They go to a school, they lay it out for them, they got this going, and kids, oh yeah, I want to come here. And then what happens is reality sits in. You know, they find out, hey, you know what, I really don't want to go there. I want to go here. And what happens is these coaches from other schools and the fan base is just really hard on these kids. But you got to remember, these are children. We all been children before. We all make mistakes. And they're going to continue to make mistakes. But I just don't think that we should just penalize these kids and hurt these kids' feelings because they change their mind. You know, it's like you put them in the middle of a store with a bunch of Nike tennis shoes. You know, they're going to keep changing their mind. No, I want these, you know, they change their mind. And I think a lot of these, you know, fans from these schools, they need to be patient with these kids. I mean, you know, it's a lot of pressure. Trust me. I mean, me being a father and my wife, I mean, we experience it every day. I mean, it's tough. Because at the end of the day, you know, the kid only can choose one school. That's right. You know, he can't choose. He can have 45, 50 offers, but it doesn't matter. The kid can only go to one school. And he needs to make sure that's the right school for him. And that's what we need to remember as adults, that it's what's best for the child, not us.
Talk to us as other families are going to end up going through this process. You guys aren't going to, you were not the first, nor you're going to be the last.
Right.
Tell us about being patient throughout the whole process.
Well, yeah, that's, it is very important, because like they said on the first encounter when we went to the junior day at Florida State, because they didn't know who Ryan was, and they had other recruits there that were like on their leaderboards, 4- or 5-star athletes. You know, mind you, Ryan is in 10th grade, so he's not known. You know, we're just starting the process. So they have juniors, they have seniors, they have 4-stars, they have 5-star athletes. So yeah, they're showing them all the love because they're trying to draw them in to their program. And they've kind of put all the other kids, like Ryan, because he wasn't the only one, on the back burner. And I could see it was aggravating to him. And it was kind of frustrating for us too, because we knew what Ryan could do. We knew his potential, but they don't know who he is. They're like, who is this kid? And that's understandable. So we had to realize, okay, we have to be patient. This is a patient process. I mean, it's a long process, but it takes patience too. You can't expect it to happen overnight. You know, we had to put in work on the back end. Ryan had to put in, he went there, he saw it, and he made up in his mind, okay, I have to work harder. Both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. He started dedicating himself more to working out with his trainer, his speed coach, and things of that nature, to make sure that when he got an opportunity to show them, he could do that. And all the while being patient. You just can't, you know, just turn yourself off and just say, well, forget this program, we're going to go someplace else, because ultimately it's going to be the same thing, because they don't know who you are. Once you get yourself out there and get noticed, then that's when everything starts to happen for you. But it is a process. And a lot of people don't, and people that we've encountered, seem to think, okay, well, it's overnight. It's not an overnight thing. You know, it was a lot of, you know, he's down, you know, his feelings are hurt. You know, we've got to, as parents, talk to him, Ryan, you know, it's okay, you know, well, this is what you need to work on, you know. Don't focus on them not knowing who you are. Make them know who you are. So the next time that, you know, whether it's them coming to St. Pete Catholic or you going to them, make them know who you are. Make them realize, okay, well, this is a special kid here. So with all of that, you have to be patient. You know, you can't just get an arrogant attitude and say, I'm not going to be worried about this institution. I'm just going to focus on this institution, because it's just not going to happen.
About all the crazy messages you got.
Well, one day I'll have 50, just in one day, and then I'll try to check all of them as much as I can. Then the next I'll have up to 200, 300 messages in my inbox.
Just like that?
Just like that in one day.
Tell us about some of the recruiting trips that you've been on, how they laid out the red carpet for you. One of the nicest, maybe the most surprising, one of the nicest visits that you've had, they laid out the carpet for Ryan Green.
Well, Probably for Florida State and Notre Dame.
Okay.
You know, Notre Dame, they showed me all around the facilities. They treated me well, treated my family well, my teammate well, and it was just a good experience. Same with Florida State, and I just felt more that Florida State was the spot for me.
In short, 10 seconds real quick that you would like to tell any family that's going to end up going through this process. Anything, the last words that you like to say?
Yes, be involved with your child. Be directly involved. Don't let these writers and these schools, you know, take advantage of your child. You have to be directly involved. There's no such thing as being overprotected. Trust me.
For a mother, for another mother going through the process?
Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing, be involved, because we are advocates for our children. We're their #1 advocate. And on the other side of that, I would also say that make sure that your child understands that he can only make one choice, and it is his choice. That he whatever school that he chooses is a choice that he's going to make, and that he's not going to please everybody. He's going to upset somebody, and it's on the other side, somebody else is going to be very happy. But as long as he's secure in his choice, then that's all that matters.
And Ryan, for the next 4 or 5 star prospect that's going to be coming up, you got any words of wisdom?
Just to stay humble, you know. Don't get cocky, because that cockiness goes down because it's always somebody out there better than you. So you just got to continue to work hard and just stay uplifting and stay humble.